So on this week of Be More Super, the podcast, we're changing it up a bit. You know, we're used to having the actors of stars, you know, of TV and screen. But this week, we've got the man that's behind a lot of the superheroes that you see on screen. Yes, Don Saladino. Welcome to the show, my man.
Brian, thanks for having me on, man. I'm excited. This is great.
It is a pleasure. And do you know what? Through all this pandemic that we're going through at the moment, you know, it's making times tough for us. But what's also making things tough is, you know, fitness. You know, people getting fit, keeping fit, and the effect it's having on the everyday man, and a lot of the listeners and viewers of the show. So I thought I'll get you on. You know, if anyone's going to know, it's going to be you. So,
Appreciate that.
you started your business, Drive 495, in Soho, in New York, 20 years ago. What made you start your own gym?
Yeah, no, it was wild. I mean, I started as a coach 21 years ago, and Drive actually started about
Right.
16 years ago. I think it was just a dream of mine when I left college and I realized things weren't working out with baseball. I had to be involved in training of some sort. I had to be around gyms. I mean, I was so addicted to it. So, it wasn't anything I can imagine, not doing. So, I mean, it just came down to me, figuring out, well, how can I live in a gym? Well, I'll be a
Yeah.
coach. It's literally that simple. And I was definitely inspired by my mom a bit. I mean, her and I had a long conversation. She was like, "Yeah, well, aren't there trainers out there?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but they're not making money." And then she told me, "Listen, you've been good at everything you've done. Just go follow something because you love it and because you're passionate about it and you want to live it." And it's been obvious. I mean, 21 years, there's not a day goes by that I'm not thinking about it or I'm not trying to better myself or a client or something. So it's definitely been the right decision. I mean, I would almost refer to it as a calling. I mean, I know it sounds a little extreme, but when you're sitting here and your focus is to help so many people, and you find yourself in the position to be able to do that every day, it definitely becomes more than just a job.
And what made you actually open a gym? Because as you said, there are many trainers out there and you could have easily just gone out as a trainer. But what made you actually open the gym?
Probably the fact that, I always want, more when it comes to work and business. And, I went to school to study business. So, business is something I've always enjoyed and I've always enjoyed the challenge of it. And I know just going and training clients, I don't think this isn't to downplay what I did for years, but I just don't think it would have been fulfilling enough for me to go, work with, 41-hour sessions a week. It's like, then what? Like how much can you really, how much of an influence can you really make, or how much of a dent on society can you really make by doing that? So,
Yeah.
it started with training, normal people, really athletes. I mean, I started as a trainer, and then my gym was a golf fitness performance facility where, I became a strength coach, and strength and conditioning has always been a huge passion of mine. And then from golf, I started working with this guy by the name of Hugh Jackman, which a lot of people have heard of. And then, by helping him get ready for Wolverine in the movie Australia, it kind of segued into, working with a lot of actors as well as professional athletes. But I think my shtick really became more about preparing people for the big screen.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, what drives you? Mind the pun with the gym name, but what actually drives you day in, day out?
It's so many things. I mean, my family, one, but I mean, that drive has been there before I got married and had kids, obviously. So they definitely motivate me to an extent. But I just think it's the fact that I'm in a profession right now where I can always improve.
Yeah.
And for me, as I get older, it's not like I'm a professional athlete where, if I get older in my job, like performance will diminish. Like I feel like as I'm getting older in this profession, I'm getting better. I mean, I'm learning more about, the human body every day. I'm learning more about communication with people every day. I'm learning more about business. I'm learning, more about new opportunities and, how to throw balls in the air, but then also how to kind of capitalize on the ones that you're seeing are starting to
Mhm.
pay dividends a bit. So, it's been an incredible journey of highs and lows. I mean, it hasn't always been a steady climb.
So you mentioned earlier on that you're first. Let's talk about the celebrity clients, and then we'll go on to general fitness afterwards.
Hmm.
So you mentioned that Hugh Jackman was your
Hmm.
first client. What was it like to have Hugh as your first client?
like a normal client. I think that's
Yeah.
probably why I gel really well with them because, you know, I'm not coming in looking at them as the actor. I'm coming in looking at them as the human being that I'm trying to improve. So,
Mm.
you know, I think it's something where with all of them, you know, you got to get a little personal and you got to figure out, you know, what are their stresses and, you know, what are their daily patterns and what are the things that they battle with. And because you know everyone has it, everyone has their good days and bad days,
Yeah.
and you know I think at that point it's really, and that's why not to jump around, but when someone refers to me as a celebrity trainer, I'm like, what does that mean? It doesn't
Yeah.
really, you know, it's not what I do. I'm not only taking people on because they're celebrities, but my business became about, you know, celebrities contacting me or production companies contacting me saying we have a job, and that job means you have to get someone ready for a role where a production company, call what you want. They're going to invest, you know, millions and millions of dollars into this movie, and it's your job to make sure that they look a specific way and they perform a certain way on stage. There's a level of resiliency that these actors have to have. They're
Yeah.
not just, you know, pretty physiques getting on stage. I mean, if you see them now, there's you know tons of stunt training that goes in to a lot of these roles, and for them to be able to perform these stunts in these action roles, their body has to be able to move like an athlete and they have to have a level of resiliency. And to be honest with you, I think it's almost a little bit more difficult than training an athlete because an athlete, you know when the game time is, you go in, they go all out for their period of time and then they go and they rest and they recover. Unfortunately, when a lot of these actors are going in and they're performing these stunts or they're performing, you know, these scenes, they get injured. They
Yeah.
can't stop. They can't get pulled out of the game. Like they're not
Yeah.
like these production companies. They have to keep going. And you hear so many stories of them, you know, shooting the rest of their film with a broken foot, a broken hand. You know, there's just, you know, it's really grueling when it comes down to scheduling. You know, 15, 16-hour day shoots, being away from their family. I mean, I really tip my cap to them. And it's always easy when someone can see the finished product and see them on stage and just think, oh wow, you know, they're in the glory all the time. Like they have to work really hard. I
Yeah.
really developed an incredible respect for them over the last, you know, close to 2 decades.
But as you mentioned earlier on about being referred to as a celebrity trainer, but
Hmm.
it's a body at the end of the day. You could be preparing them for a Hollywood movie or a wedding or anything like that. It doesn't make them any different. And I suppose Hugh Jackman, you could have had a worse celebrity to start off with because he's definitely a fit man. I saw him recently in a one man show and he was on stage for 3 long hours
Yeah, he's one of
non-stop.
the hardest working guys. He's one of the hardest working guys in Hollywood. I mean, he's you know, somewhat of a perfectionist where he's always trying, even in his 50s now, he's trying to, you know, challenge his body and continue to learn as he's getting older. And you know, he was a great person. He was a great person in my life for a long period of time, and I definitely owe a lot to him.
Yeah. I mean, who's the easiest star that you've actually worked with, from start to finish?
They're all easy. If you're
Okay.
good at what you
Who
do,
was
they're all easy.
who was the one that moaned the most?
The most. They all train really hard. I think that's one thing that you know that most people don't think about when they get into these roles and they have to dive into these roles. It's like a switch. You know, I mean, Ryan Reynolds has been my guy for, you know, 12 years. You know, him and his wife Blake are, you know, I consider them like family. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's incredible to me how, you know, you could see them both get ready for, you know, when it's time to turn the switch on, they turn the switch on. But listen, like anyone else, and they'll be the first to admit it, they have their good and bad days in the gym and, you know, they battle typical stuff that normal people battle as well. So it's really no different.
Well, this is what I was going to say about Ryan Reynolds because he seems a bit of a joker. So in the gym, is he actually serious about it? Because
Oh yeah.
his body in like Blade Trinity and in Deadpool,
Oh, amazing.
is just phenomenal. But I remember listening to an interview with him, and he said he was in so much pain because he was working out so much in preparation that he didn't. I don't know if he had enough time to rest or it was just a case of because it was ongoing all the time.
No, I think with him and I over the last decade, what we've really, you know, the thing I'm really proud of him because he's someone that as he's getting into his 40s, I think his physique's getting better. I mean,
Mm.
you know, I think in Deadpool, um, how his body looked compared to Blade Trinity, I liked it better, and
Yeah.
And I think he was happy with it because he realized that he was able to take a much different approach, and he was able to get higher levels of carbs in, and he was able to go into work and perform at work, and perform at a high level. I think early on, like everyone else, we start doing little tricks, no carb diets, this and that, and I think that kind of plays tricks on your body and your brain a little bit, and I think that makes things a lot more difficult than it needs to be. My first goal with everyone, I don't care, you're coming into me and you want to look like Brad Pitt in Fight Club. It's energy. It's
Mm.
energy and resiliency. It's that simple. I need you to feel like you're a machine every day during your workouts, during life, during the time where you're shooting that role. And
Yeah.
I need your body resilience. So if I can get those things, if I can get control over those things through things like sleep, digestion, nutrition, the training becomes the easy part. And going in an hour and a half a day and doing what we have to do, and then mixing in those recovery modalities to allow our body to respond properly so we can come back every day and do what we need to do. That's what it's all about. If you can take
Mm.
care of those first two things of energy and resiliency, then you can go in and demand out of your body what it takes to get that type of physique. And you're going to live a long, healthier, better life, in my opinion, rather than, certain coaches. It's about, oh, we're going to beat you to the ground and we're going to kill you. You're not doing that individual any good. They're
Yeah.
going into their movies and their bodies are breaking down and they're getting sick. And that's, to me, that's not training, that's working out. I think it's a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, Christian Bale comes to mind because he's
Oh, yeah.
transformed so from the machinist to, Batman Begins. And how bad is that for the human body for actors to
It's
lose
terrible.
that amount?
But that was Christian Bale's job.
Yeah.
It's he made a decision. He made a decision to put his body through. I put a post up, I think a couple of years ago, maybe a year or so ago, of different roles that Bale played in, because it really is extraordinary to see how this person was able to change his entire appearance.
Yeah.
And I think that that takes a lot of work. And guess what? It's not healthy for the body. I don't think
Yeah.
anyone's going to ever argue that, but that's his job. And it's like saying, well, is being a baseball player healthy? Is being a soccer player healthy? We all think it's because it's sport, it's healthy. But when you're turning around and you're doing something, asymmetrical to the body over and over
Mm.
and over, and you're diving and you're torquing and you're twisting, there's a reason why, athletes' bodies get broken down. So that's their job. So
Yeah.
as a coach, it's my job to make sure that those athletes can go and they can perform and they're resilient.
Yeah.
As me helping prepare an actor for a movie role, I need to make sure their body's resilient and that they're able to bounce back. And I think that's the biggest misconception about what it is coaches like myself, do with these actors, is they think everyone thinks it's all about, oh, them taking their shirt off in that 10 seconds of glory. It's so much more than that.
Yeah. I mean, talking about the actors, how long do you normally have with them? Do you have 3 months? Do you have 3 weeks?
Who knows? I've had 2 weeks. It's like I've
Really?
had, I remember I worked with Ryan Gosling for a while, and he came in one day and I'm like, I'm shooting a movie in 2 weeks. I'm like, okay. It's like, what are you going to do in 2 weeks? I mean, but I think, can you do something in 2 weeks? Yes. What can you do? You can remove cheat meals. You can improve movement quality. You can eliminate a couple of pounds of water weight in a very healthy fashion. You can help improve sleep, energy levels. You can get that actor to where they can go into that movie role 2 weeks later
Yeah.
with more confidence, with more strength. So yeah, there is a lot we can do in 2 weeks. I know, if I was to give someone 2 weeks, just 2 weeks of no cheats, a proper diet, a proper nutrition plan, a proper training plan, a proper rest and recovery plan, to where their bodies are just, after the first week, they're like, oh my God, my body's feeling better. Oh my God, I'm sleeping better. That's a lot of work you can do in 2 weeks.
Mm.
But I think, again, everyone's always relating success to like that finished product of taking the shirt off
Yeah.
and looking like that they belong on the cover of Muscle and Fitness.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, who's had the biggest transition from start to finish with yourself?
I don't think it's probably not an actor. I mean, I've been working with a woman named Laura Summers, who we took from 872 pounds. She's down to about 360 right now. So,
Wow.
872 pounds is probably more than anyone can say that they've seen. So
Wow.
I took a woman from close to 900 pounds down to where we're planning on having her break that 200-pound mark. So for me, that's probably been one of the biggest transitions, and it's taken a long time. But you know
Yeah.
what? We're getting her more healthy. Doctors didn't think she was going to make it. She's here. She's healthy. We have her gym membership now. She's doing cardio. I'm sending her a rower. We're rebuilding her day by day. So I think that's probably the transition that I'd say I'm most proud of, at least being able to have my fingerprint in. Otherwise, listen, they've all done incredible stuff. Every one of the actors have, every time I see them on a role, on the big screen, and you see them perform, like, I'm not gonna lie, I get a little teary eyed because it's nice to be able to have my fingerprint in it. But it's not me doing the work. It's me giving some guidance, giving feedback, being, an emotional crutch for that person, and making sure that the programming, that they have all their questions answered when it comes to their fitness and nutrition. But I'm never going to turn around and say that, Ryan wouldn't be there without me. Of course he would. He has an amazing physique. He's got an amazing work ethic. I'm just lucky enough to be, in his corner, a part of his team.
And he's doing all right with himself. He's just sold
Not bad.
aviation gin for
I think
630 million, which it can't
he's
be
doing
bad
all
at all.
right.
So with all these actors on screen looking absolutely credible, do you think it's encouraging more men into the gym? And do you think it's giving them realistic goals? Because you look at Hugh Jackman, you look at Chris Pratt, Ryan Reynolds, and their bodies and the amount of work and time. For the everyday man, do you think it's realistic to get to that shape?
Yeah, I think it is because, I don't think things are any different. A lot of them, they don't have their own private chefs. When Ryan's away on movies, I'm not traveling with him. He's got to get his workouts in by himself at 5 in the morning or 6 in the morning, whatever it is. I hope those actors are motivating to others. I hope people look at those actors and say, wow, I'd love to get to that point, because then we're doing better for society and we're helping out more people. I think the misconception is that everyone's under the impression that they're living these cushy lives when they can train at any time during the day. Anytime during the day. I think they have a more difficult job. I mean, sometimes, they got to be up at, training at 5 a.m., out the door at 6:30 or 7 for their call time. And they're, working all day, not seeing their families, 8, 9 o'clock at night, getting home, having a quick dinner, showering, and then getting right to bed. And, if you have to do that on set for 3 to 6 months and you're away from your family and you're living that lifestyle, it's tough. It really
Yeah.
is. So I tip my cap to all of them.
And what's the weirdest request you've had from a client? And obviously, you don't have to name names.
No, weirdest request. I don't. It's funny. I've been really blessed. I started in this industry back in 1999. I started at a big box gym. I went on my own for about 5 years, 6 years before I got funding to open my own club. And I think those days now, I think when a lot of them come into me, I'm vetted already, so they all know I'm already they know I'm a good person. They know they can trust me. So when we're walking in, it's not really a handshake. It's more of, or before COVID, it was a hug.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have that. It's nice to have that, barrier broken when someone's coming in. So I think when people are starting off with me, there's this level of comfort. And I think after a session or two, they realize that, what's being said in that session, staying in that session, and we can really get down to business. And, I understand that, there's no facade that has to be put up. Like, if you had a tough night, if you had a tough day the day before, let me know about it. If you didn't sleep, let me know about it,
Yeah.
and we'll work around it. It doesn't have to be this Rocky type mentality. But as for requests, none. They've all, I mean, listen, the ones I've been working with for, the ones you see me working with for 10, 12 years, I consider family. I mean, they're all incredible people. They have all done so much for me in my life. Like I mentioned, Ryan and Blake and
Yeah.
Sebastian Stan, and, Seb has been an incredible person to me. And, Emily Blunt and John Krasinski, amazing people to me.
Yeah.
And, I've gotten really close with Annie Hathaway and certain people I truly love and think the world of. And, when you see them every day and they're they're in your lives, you really, you never want to let them down.
That's awesome. That is absolutely awesome. So let's talk about the everyday man, because as I mentioned before I started to record, I want to start a revolution. I want to start, the world getting into a fitter place for body and
Yep.
mind to be more super. The reason why I named the show Be More Super was because of my love of Superman, but also I think that You know, we need to be super in body and mind. And I've had a horrendous journey over the years. I mean, I've said in the email to you that I'm not ashamed to say it. I'm just over 300 pounds of weight. You know, so it's about 21 and a half stone. I've struggled with weight all my life. I used to stutter when I was a kid. I had speech therapy for 7 years, believe it or
Me
not.
too.
Did you
Me
really?
too. Yeah,
And
yeah, I am. Yeah, I was second grade. It kind of started from a hearing problem, and I had a bad. I mean, even to this day, yeah, I pick up on it a lot. If I get a little excited or start talking too fast, that
yeah,
stutter starts coming back. Yeah, it's actually
yeah,
Emily Blunt brought me. She invited me this year to. She's God, the Stuttering Foundation. She's a part of her on the board of. She brought me down to, and we kind of got to meet, all the young kids who are going through that as well and hear their story. And it was really one of the more emotional nights that I've been a part of. It
yeah.
was really special. Um,
Did
yeah,
you ever
so we have that in
did,
common.
did you ever get anyone hit you on the back of the head thinking that it would get the words out?
No, but
Oh, just me.
it's no one, no one. I'm sure that I mean, I guess that happened to you, but you know what? I can't even remember. Did I get into? Yeah, I started. I remember at a young age, I started getting into a lot of fights. I mean, when I
Yeah,
was in second grade, third grade, I didn't really
yeah,
know how to express myself. I was coming home and I was really emotional, and I remember that was tough. And as a young kid, when you don't know how to express yourself,
mm,
you start becoming a little more physical, and that's probably a huge reason why I got involved in this. I mean, this has
mm,
given me so much confidence as a human being and allowed me to kind of grow as a child to a man and just being athletic and having that release, having that thing in my life that every day I can kind of go to and I know it's going to put me into this perfect mindset. I mean, it
yeah,
always does, whether it's a good workout or bad workout. If I go in and I'm eating right and I'm sleeping right and I'm training the way I need to be training and those cylinders are firing,
yeah.
I'm in a good spot.
So, so gyms for me has been a trial and error because I've got to say, you know, when you go into a normal gym, you'll have personal trainers there, and they are like salespeople. They really
Yeah.
are. They hook you in, they get you set up, and then they start bombarding you. And what I've learned is that every personal trainer has got a different method completely. Some will say take supplements. Some will say don't take supplements. You know, what is your advice? Because I presume losing fat and losing weight quickly is a bad idea or a good idea.
Losing fat, losing weight quickly, sometimes it's unavoidable. I mean, I think it depends on where the starting point is.
Yeah,
I think if you're someone like Laura, who is 872 pounds, which I know is a very extreme case, it's going to be body fat and body weight is going to be start falling off. We just have
yeah,
to make sure we're not doing it too quickly. My method with coaching has always been really consistent. I think the one thing I nailed on the head since 1999 when I started doing this to now, and this is the one constant that hasn't changed with anyone, is, you know, add value. When someone's coming into the session, make sure they're leaving that session in a better mindset. I've never in my life tried to hard sell someone on a session. I've
yeah,
never pushed supplements. I've never pushed myself as a product. I go in when I would do that initial consultation, and all I would be thinking about is bettering that individual. I wasn't thinking about the session rate. I wasn't thinking about how many times a week they were training with me. If you go in and you give value and
yeah,
you allow that person to leave there going, holy shit, this is not, what's the word I'm looking for? This is not a luxury. This is a necessity because people refer to hiring a trainer as a luxury. No, this is a necessity. This is great. This is great for my life, my mindset. I'll be a better dad, a better husband, a better wife. I'll be a better person because I have this person in my life. If you can add that type of value as a coach, you'll be incredibly successful in this business. If you're a trainer who's going in there right now and they're just thinking about the sessions or no, you're going to fail. It doesn't work that way in this business because people can smell the BS, and that's why I really think one of the main ingredients for a good coach is empathy
yeah,
and the passion to want to get better.
yeah. I mean, what's the biggest mistake that you see people make in the gym?
In the gym, like in the
Yeah,
brick and mortar
yeah,
facility,
yeah,
you know what? I think everyone wants things too quickly. I think
yeah,
they have to understand that to build a physique, to build a long-term resilient physique, it is a consistency. you're not going to brush your teeth a lot in one day and just say, all right, I'm not going to have bad breath now. I mean, it sounds like a disgusting
Yeah.
comparison, but it's really the truth. You have to be consistent with it. You have to be consistent with training. And I think like one of my favorite movies of all time is Rocky. But I also think like it could set somewhat of a bad example because everyone's under the impression that training for them has to be like the training montage and them
Yeah.
climbing up that mountain with the log on their back. And I'm like, no, it doesn't have to be that. It doesn't have to be where you're trained to failure. You're gonna have days where you come in and you want to drop the hammer and you're like, I feel great, I want to go. There's gonna be days where you're like, all right, I'm a little beat up from yesterday. I'm gonna run 80% today. Like that's what fitness is about.
Yeah.
And just understanding the execution of how movements should be performed, making sure that your first set and your last set look the same from a technical standpoint, even though the last set might feel a lot harder. There's little things that I think people need to really think about. But I think when it gets down to these 60 to 90-minute workouts, it's not in the cards for everyone. But I've changed lives and created physiques on 15, 20-minute workouts. I mean, it
Yeah.
can happen. It happens every day. I just think people have to get out of their mind that that needs to be this all or nothing mentality.
I think the biggest obstacle is everyday life. I think that people need to take that time and book it in. Do you know what I mean? That
Yeah.
if you're going to go to the gym, you need to book it in. I've got two girls. One is actually it's her birthday today. She's seven
How
years
old?
old.
Oh, seven.
Seven.
How old's your other one?
Two.
Oh,
So
Jesus.
they're a bit of a handful. So,
That's I
but
love it.
but but for me, I'm always active. I'm on my feet every single
Mhm.
day, doing about 20,000 steps a day at work.
It's
Um,
fantastic.
and the weight isn't dropping off. And I don't know why. I love the gym, absolutely love it. I love the feeling of coming home and feeling sore that you've had, that workout, and I've been doing my 3 times 12 reps, on different things and on the cross trainer, but nothing's coming off.
Well, you know what? I think let's jump into that for a second because I think this will be a good example for a lot of people out there. I mean, one, I think the biggest misconception with weight loss is that, always restricting calories. Now, I'm not saying that putting someone in a caloric deficit is not going to allow them to lose weight. Of course it is. But what I've noticed is most people out there are under eating to begin with and their metabolism slowing down. And I'm running a challenge right now with about 500 people. And you can go on and, if you were to speak with, I'd say 99% of them, maybe close to 100%, maybe it might even be a perfect number, but every person so far who's increased their calories, they've allowed their body to get leaner and they've
Mm.
allowed their sizes to drop. Maybe they haven't seen a big change on the scale yet, but I'm not concerned with the scale. I want you to have the body you want to look at when you take your
Yeah.
shirt off, or I want you to have that level of energy. So I think what happens a lot of times is that we end up eating like gerbils all day long, and we're not getting enough micronutrients and we're not getting enough macronutrients in, and our bodies are just really starting to process food slowly. And every person that I've had increase healthy calories and maintain blood sugar level after they're full the first couple of days, and after that their appetite increases. Then they're waking up and they're like, well, I'm sweating a little bit more. I feel like my body temperatures are getting a little bit warmer. And I'm sitting here like nodding my head going, yep, like we're just kind of starting to speed up that metabolism a bit. And why? I'm just not going to continue to do the same thing over and over. And that's when I think people need to hire a coach or
Yeah.
a nutritionist, a dietitian, someone to sit down with. I think the training's the easy part, honestly. Like there is smart programming. I mean, I know a lot of trainers out there that are assigning the programming that I wouldn't, because they're causing injury and they're
Yeah.
not actually looking at human movement and how the body's working from a joint by joint approach. But if I was someone in your situation right now, I would sit down with a nutritionist and I would
Yeah.
invest maybe a month or 2 months to making sure that nutritionist gets you on the right track.
Yeah.
And then that's information you're going to carry for the rest of your life. But you're better off doing that than putting yourself under that stress and
Yeah.
beating your head on a wall.
Because it can be very confusing. I had a friend that's very into fitness, into CrossFit and everything, and he was
Hmm.
like, "Oh, you need to sort out your macros, man." And I'm like, "Pardon?" And do you know what? It's a great science, and it's just getting my head around that. So, if you could
It
give,
works.
yeah, yeah, I mean,
It
I can,
works. And counting macros works, but
yeah,
you know what? That's not to say that not counting macros doesn't. I think the
mm,
biggest issue that I think what macros start showing people is their day-to-day variability.
yeah,
So if and I saw it this morning. I had a challenger turn to me and they said, I've measured my macros over the last week, and here are my ranges. I'm 150 pounds. My protein has been between 120 and 220.
Yeah.
My carbs have been between 150 and 250. I'm making these numbers up, but they're that extreme. My fat has been between 40 and 80. That was probably more accurate. This person's numbers have almost doubled from day to day. There's so much variability from day to day. He's not allowing his body to make that change. So I
Yeah.
think where macros really help out is, it's now giving people a little bit more structure to make sure that their carbs are in that same, zone, the proteins, the fats are in that same zone to where their body can at least make change. And then from that point, you can adjust up or adjust down according to what it is you're actually trying to do. But let me tell you something, like I've got plenty of celebs, like I'm not going to mention their names, that have world-class physiques, and they're measuring food based off of their palm or their fist or their thumb, depending on whether it's a protein, carb, fat, or vegetable. And
Wow.
it works great. But I think the people out there that aren't doing it, there's too much variability. And that's where I recommend, like, yeah, sure, measure your macros and get an understanding from day to day. And let me tell you something, 9 out of 10 times, it's the same example of that individual I just gave you a couple seconds ago about all that variability. If you have that much variability, it ain't going to happen.
That's awesome. I noticed on your website you've got a 4 week body weight program. What's all that about?
I've got a bunch of programs.
Yep.
So, I've got a couple of different avenues that I'm able to facilitate a need for, people out there. And I think the body weight program was something I initially launched and I gave for free. And it was just to give everyone a little bit of taste through COVID and help them out. I didn't want any money from them, and it was a really great value add for them. Part of my business though is, yeah, I sell programs on my site. I mean, I'm able to sell different types of programs. I've got a subscription model where people can come on and join that subscription model, but I'm going to be launching really soon, on donsaladino.com, an area where people can come and they can, download different programs with nutrition guides, and that's great. And if they want a step up, they can go and do one of my challenges where they get, I think the challenges are the most fun because they're getting a 4 week program. And with that program, they're getting a video from me every day where they can ask questions on, and then I answer their questions with their name the next morning. I
That's
have a
awesome.
weekly Zoom call, which lasts about 2 hours long, which all the challengers can pop on and ask questions. I normally don't get off till I'm done with all the questions. And then I host a fun little push-up challenge at the end, and I pick a winner of someone that I think really inspired me and the team, and that winner is going to receive a ton of prizes from sponsors that I work with. And I think that's a great way to kickstart yourself and get back on track, but have the ability to ask me questions. And honestly, every single person, they're shocked on the level of customer service I'm able to deliver, because every morning I'll sit there for an hour answering questions on a sheet of paper, going on a video and saying, all right, Brian, you asked me about macros. This is my opinion on that. And I answer it,
Yeah.
and I put up probably anywhere from a 15 to 30-minute video answering all the questions, but it's something where people can go back now and educate themselves on. And then you have that whole community board where they're able to communicate with each other. It really is a lot of fun. I've had as much enjoyment with that, if not more, than working with anyone I've ever worked with, because you're able to just change so many lives at once and then really move the needle a bit.
That's awesome. Where do I sign? It sounds awesome.
Information, donsaladino.com. Actually, my September challenge just went on sale yesterday, and
Yeah.
we'll close it out in about a week. And it really is a lot of fun.
That's awesome because the thing is, we're talking about inspiring people, and myself, I want to inspire my kids. I want to have a longer life with my kids, and people don't
Sure.
realize that fitness, healthy body, healthy mind, but with so many heart conditions and so much obesity out there. I mean, I don't know about the States, but in the UK, see, half my listeners are US based, so they'll probably know this straight away. But in the UK, all the fast food chains are offering half price. What's
Really?
your view on that?
I mean, they got to stay in business. Everyone right now is trying to figure out ways
Yeah,
to, increase revenue. I understand. I get it. It's scary. I mean, if you're a conglomerate out there, a huge corporation that has been, thriving for years, and then suddenly you just saw half of your business vanish,
yeah,
you got to do what you have to do to survive. there's so many different ways of looking at it. I mean, naturally for me, I wish all the meat that kids were eating and people were eating was grass-fed or organic or cage-free or, just some type of a healthier option. It's not the case. I mean, it's a bummer that that type of food is more expensive. It's a bummer that a lot of hybrids in the past, when you were buying a car, they were more expensive, and now things are starting to change, and you hope the world changes for the better in that sense. But like I said, businesses have to survive. I understand. Naturally,
Yeah,
my opinion when it comes to
yeah.
nutrition.
But no, ongoing on the show, what I'm going to be doing is updating the viewers and listeners every single maybe week or month on my progression, because it's my aim to be more super and one day don a Superman costume for my girls, because I know that they would love that.
I
So,
love that.
and also I know it's really sad, but being able to go into a department store or a shop and actually buy something off the shelf and know it will fit and not have to go to a big and tall shop or the
How
online
much weight have
shop.
you lost? How much weight
So,
have you lost?
so literally, I used to be 64-inch waist. I'm now 48-inch waist.
Wow.
I've always been a big guy. I'm stocky build, so I'm big all over. I've been told I'm endomorph, if that
Yep.
makes any sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know what
So,
endomorph is.
so I just need to just keep active and keep working out. But I love the gym. I love the weights. I know the philosophy behind it, that you've got to put a bit of muscle on, and you won't necessarily lose the weight because obviously the fat goes into the weight, the fat goes into the muscle. So it's about how you look. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think the fat can be replaced by the muscle,
yeah,
so I think it's something where, you should be combining a certain amount of resistance training to get stronger with a certain amount of, you know, um, work that'll improve your energy system or work capacity. So like what your friend did with CrossFit is just cross training. Like, but do I think cross training is good for someone who is, um, trying to lose weight? Yeah, I think it's a great tool. They're all great tools. I just think you really want to become well-rounded, and
mm,
you want to make sure your cardiovascular system is, you're putting enough work into your cardiovascular work, and you're putting enough work in your resistance training. And, I really recommend that people get on programs rather than just pulling workouts off of YouTube. Pulling workouts off of YouTube, it'll help, but it's a very frivolous approach.
yeah.
You need a specific progression, or it's nice to have a certain level of periodization where someone can go in and challenge themselves and continually get better. Because what ends up happening to the general pop is they pull a workout off, they don't really know, well, what intensity is it? How do I increase it? When do I switch up the movements? Like, what am I trying to do? How am I getting better at these movements? And I think that's the fun thing about programming for me. When I'm designing program for anyone, they just watching them over a few week period of time improve those lifts, get a little bit more in check with what they're actually training, and allowing their body to get stronger. And then it starts making change. And then when they either start getting bored or they start plateauing, then I know to change that up. So that's things that I've been able to do with not only my in-person clients, but my digital has been a lot of fun.
That's awesome. And how can the viewers and listeners follow you on social
Well,
media?
thank you very much. I mean, Don Saladino is my Instagram handle. If you just go there and you click on the link in my bio and you go to donsaladino.com, I mean, you pretty much can find out everything. I mean, I'm on TikTok at Don Saladino, Twitter at Don Saladino, Facebook at Don Saladino, but my Instagram, um, and the bio on my Instagram pretty much says it all. So it'll be able to direct anyone in the right direction.
That's awesome. And I'll definitely check out the programs and the September program as well. What's the
Thank
September
you.
one called? Is it to be a superhero
No,
or
the
that?
September program is called, what do we call it again? Oh yeah, it's Suit Up. Why did I forget that? It's my whole tagline. I get so confused sometimes because I just got off of the superhero program,
Yeah.
and then before that we just got off a summer charge, and this one is Suit Up is a tag that I came up with, a friend of mine by the name of Charles Thorpe. who's one of the editors for Men's Journal and Rolling Stones, and he's a very brilliant writer. But suit up was our way of saying we want to get you ready for your super suit. So you're suiting up for your wedding gown, you're suiting up to play Black Widow, you're suiting up to play whatever it is. Like you're suiting up for something special. So the suit up program is almost a program name that I've been using for a long time, and I'll be continuing to use.
That is awesome. And what's next for you after everything? Any things that you can tell us about? Or
Yeah, I got a couple of brands I'm working with. I'm really excited. On Running is one of them, right here.
yep,
I'm about to do a really cool interview with Fleet Feet. That information's up on my stories right now. So On Running's been a great brand. I'm working with a company called Thrive Kinesiology Tape. It's a far infrared tape. I'm a founding partner of that company. And then there's Halo Sport, which is a hydration drink. So I'm working with a bunch of brands and really having fun with them. On top of that, I own a club in New York City called Drive. We're pretty much finding out right now what our next steps are. My 15-year lease fortunately expired May 31st. So
right.
we're in a really good situation because we're leaning towards potentially just throwing the stuff in storage and giving it a couple months and seeing what's going on in this world and focusing on digital, and then transitioning back in when we know a little bit more. But in our opinion right now, our governor's allowing us to open at 33% capacity. That's a tough thing to do. I think also understanding that our world's in a really weird spot right now
Mm.
when it comes to the coronavirus, and gyms, they're going to be tough environments to be in right now. I know we all want to get back there, but I think we all have to be really safe. So,
Mm. And what's
I've got to.
and what's your
What's up?
advice on being safe in the gyms?
I think, listen, I think if you're working out at any club, you have to look at the guidelines that club is following. I mean,
Yeah,
naturally, some clubs are going to be trying to cheat, and they're going to be trying to push things along and not follow the rules that our government's thought out pretty strongly about.
yeah,
So, it's one of those things where I just hope a lot of gym owners aren't starting to allow large groups of people in, because they naturally they have to pay their bills, but at the cost of someone getting sick and potentially dying. No,
yeah,
absolutely not. That's the wrong thing to do. So I think if someone's in a gym and they start feeling like that their space is becoming occupied and that they're starting to feel uncomfortable, I think you need to get out of there and just take a breath. But I know a lot of friends of mine that are reopening their facilities. I know Steve Weinberger over at Bev Francis Powerhouse Gym. He's gone through a really strenuous procedure to have to allow people back in. They're scheduling appointments, and he's really, I admire him because he's really doing what he needs to be doing. So I think there's examples like that are fantastic, and you hope everyone follows those rules.
and fingers crossed this is all over before we know it and we can get back to normal. But Don, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to me on the show. All the best with you and the family, and you've definitely got yourself you've got all the fingers in the pie, as we
Thanks,
say in
Ryan.
the UK, in the way of
I
all your
appreciate it.
projects. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.